infected scabies.
Okay,
3 weeks back.
wait. So this patient is admitted with history of puffiness phase. So
Yes.
what is the differential diagnosis of puffiness phase?
It could be anything, a renal cause.
It can be renal disease,
It could be Cushing's.
more few days duration,
Um, Maybe an anaphylaxis or
anaphylaxis, angioneurotic edema. You mean? Yes, it is possible. Yes.
um,
Other causes of puffiness phase.
it could be maybe just generalized edema due to a cardiac or
Okay, generalized edema can have
pulmonary.
puffiness phase. Yes.
It could be
Hypothyroidism is an important cause
hypothyroidism.
for us that can produce puffiness phase. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Any local causes you suspect?
Insect bites or
Okay, or ophthalmic causes can produce like cavernous sinus thrombosis. We can have any parasitic infection producing puffiness phase. Trichinosis can have puffiness phase. Now,
yes, sir.
what about superior vena cava obstruction?
So it could be present.
It could be superior vena cava obstruction. So, differential diagnosis of puffiness phase is ever so many. Now, second complaint of this patient is oliguria.
Yes, sir.
So, what is oliguria?
So there is a urine output of less than 400 ml per day.
Per day. So, oliguria can have different causes. What are they possibly?
So maybe a renal failure or a glomerulonephritis, maybe hypovolemia, shock.
So, basically, you said hypovolemia and shock together as pre-renal causes, and you said renal failure as a renal cause. But I think,
Post.
ah,
As a post-renal, it could be an obstruction,
but in a 25-year-old, what obstruction can produce?
a renal stone,
Anything else?
uh,
Phimosis, paraphimosis,
yes, sir.
strictures, bladder neck obstruction. That's what usually happens in them, or neurological causes. So whenever patient is not passing urine, that does not mean it's oliguria. It can be retention as well. Check it. And then third complaint of this patient is,
Color colored urine.
yes, what will be the differential diagnosis of cola urine?
It could be a hematuria.
It could be hematuria. It can be hemoglobinuria. How do you differentiate between the two?
In hematuria, you will have dysmorphic erythrocytes.
Yes,
There could be RBC CAS and maybe an associated proteinuria.
yes. If it's hemoglobinuria,
There won't be erythrocytes present.
okay. Suppose it is a case of myoglobinuria, how do you recognize?
So that will also not have any RBCs present.
No RBCs, but how will you confirm?
So the biochemical test,
Biochemical test or spectroscopic examination can tell you. What are the scenarios where you get myoglobinuria in the urine?
rhabdomyolysis,
Who gets rhabdomyolysis? Unaccustomed exercise like going for Shayana Pradeshanam. Okay, vigorous work, unaccustomed person, or people who are using different types of recreational drugs like cocaine, ecstasy,
yes,
they can produce rhabdomyolysis. So, color colored urine also has got some differential diagnosis. But when you put three together, puffiness phase with oliguria and color colored urine, what did you conclude?
it's a renal
Renal cause.
cause.
Okay, carry on the history.
The patient had history of infected scabies 3 weeks back.
So, how does it help you?
An infection can end up causing an acute glomerulonephritis.
Post-infective glomerulonephritis. Okay. What is the usual complaint of patients with scabies?
Itching, pruritus, intense pruritus.
What are the adjectives you would like to use for pruritus of scabies?
It will be mainly around the head-neck circle.
Mainly nocturnal.
Yes, sir.
Nocturnal. Okay, that's right. Okay. Past history.
There is no past history of hematuria, hemoptysis, arthralgia, and Raynaud's.
Okay. So, what do you make out of this past history of hematuria?
That means means there's no chronic renal diseases.
Name some conditions where you get recurrent hematuria as a renal manifestation.
Maybe IgA nephropathy.
That is synpharyngeal. When you get respiratory tract infection, simultaneously you get hematuria. Unlike in post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, where pharyngitis precedes by 2 to 3 weeks. So that's the basic difference between them. And no history of hemoptysis. How does it help you?
Sir, in disorders like Goodpasture syndrome, there could be associated hemoptysis.
So you call them a syndrome, pulmonary renal syndromes.
Yes, sir.
Name some examples of pulmonary renal syndromes. Goodpasture is one.
So hepatopulmonary renal.
You get in what's called granulomatous polyangiitis. You get microscopic polyangiitis. Rarely though, we may get similar picture alveolar hemorrhage in patients with leptospira where they also have got renal problem. Okay, so hematuria, renal problems occurring along with pulmonary hemorrhage is called as pulmonary renal syndrome. That's what you are looking for this patient. On examination,
he had edema of feet, puffiness of face was present, pulse rate was 80 per minute, and the blood pressure was 180 per 110 millimeters of mercury. The CVS, respiratory, GIT, and CNS and fundus were normal.
So what do you think about this blood pressure?
It's hypertension.
Hypertension. Okay. So you already said differential diagnosis of couple conditions. So what are the possibilities now that comes to your mind as a provisional diagnosis?
So, acute glomerulonephritis.
Acute glomerulonephritis is one condition. Yes.
Maybe an exacerbation of a chronic disease.
That's very good answer. Acute or chronic disease can have. So how will you differentiate between acute disease and acute and chronic? How to differentiate acute and chronic? That's a very important difference. Acute conditions are characterized by, if you put two columns, left side acute, right side chronic, you will say acute will have oliguria, chronic will have polyuria. Acute usually not anemic, chronic may be anemic. If you do ultrasound, small kidneys favors chronicity, normal or large possibly goes with acute renal disease. Now tell me the presentations of common presentations of acute nephritic illness. What do you mean by acute nephritic illness and what are the presentations?
There could be hematuria.
So one presentation is hematuria, 2 oliguria, 3 hypertension and a complication like pulmonary edema or encephalopathy. Yes. Periorbital swelling and some of them may go for rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis. Okay, so first problem with this patient is hematuria, and how do you approach a patient with hematuria?
So you have to do a blood examination.
Let us go to the clinical aspects first. If the patient is very old, say above 50, okay, so we have to think about malignancies in relation to kidneys, bladder, prostate, or benign prostatic hypertrophy or infections. If it's a child, hematuria, you think it for
post-streptococcal.
Pulmonary renal syndrome, 1 group. 2 glomerulonephritis. Which all types of nephritis can present like this? IgA nephropathy, post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, post-infective glomerulonephritis of other organisms, anything in childhood, running in families, Alport syndrome. Okay, rarely in endemic areas, sickle cell disease affecting your kidneys. The third category in young people below 40 years is vasculitis, affecting primarily the kidneys, especially henoxylin purpura or any type of small vessel vasculitis. Then we have got fourth group in young people, lupus or connective tissue disease examples.
Yes.
Okay. Then we have the third group of people age wise. There are certain diseases which can occur in any age group. So first we said old people, then we said young, now we got any age group. Any age group is one is calculus. Second is
Yes.
infection. Infection can be in the form of pyelonephritis, maybe interstitial nephritis, or maybe TB, or can be infection of the bladder cystitis. The third category which occur in any group of people is use of anticoagulants and drugs like cyclophosphamide. How does cyclophosphamide produce hematuria? The hemorrhagic cystitis is a side effect. And which drug can prevent it? Mesna. Mesna can create. Okay. Then we have got many other causes for bleeding like simple trauma, instrumentation. You have blood disorders and so on. No. So you have got the causes for hematuria, and how are you going to analyze hematuria? What all questions you'll ask the patient regarding hematuria?
If it's painless or with pain.
Painless or painful, a very good approach, very good, yes. You have to ask them when is the hematuria. It's occurring at the end of micturition. That means terminal hematuria. That means it is coming from the bladder. You ask the patient, is it coming from the beginning? Possible it's come from the urethra. Okay. Or is it throughout, as in case of problems above the bladder? Okay. We will have to ask them urinary symptoms, associated things like urinary symptoms. Suppose there is urgency and incontinence, hesitancy, what will point to?
It's something.
Obstruction. Suppose there is a intermittent loin to groin pain.
Renal calculus.
Suppose it's a constant pain. Infections, inflammations. Okay, so you are going to look for the causes. If there is associated froth in the urine, what will you suspect?
There is associated albumin.
So these are the points you ask in relation to associated symptoms. Now coming to the respiratory symptoms in any hematuria, what all things we'll ask for?
Hemoptysis.
Hemoptysis is one. Sinusitis 2. Why sinusitis? You know Wegener's. Okay.
Yes.
Wegener's. You have to look for pleural pain. Dyspnea. Okay. What are rheumatological things you ask in the case of hematuria? Our idea is to find out the cause. Okay. Right.
Yes. Or any arthralgia.
Arthralgia and arthritis, very good. You know SL is very common. You ask history of any red spots on the skin. Suppose there are elevated red spots on the buttocks, what will you suspect?
Henoxylin.
Purpura is a possibility. That can have hematuria also. Okay. What else you look for in the skin? All the manifestations of connective tissue diseases, SLE, Raynaud's phenomenon, okay, sclerodactyly, okay. You look for tightening of the skin, okay, easy bruising, mucosal bleed, everything you have to look for. Then of course you have to look for systemic symptoms like fever, weight loss, constitutional tiredness, anorexia, fatigability and so on. Coming to the social history of these patients, which are the important points?
Any
Smoker versus non-smoker, how does it help you? Smokers are more susceptible or prone for what? Basal membrane antibody disease. What do you call it? Good pasture syndrome. People who are using cocaine are likely candidate for rhabdomyolysis. In Egypt and other endemic areas where people swim, okay, they get schistosoma. It can produce urine involvement or it can produce carcinoma and produce hematuria. Violent sports like cycling for long, marathon runners, boxers may get hematuria. So we will have to look around what are things patient was doing, the social history. Maybe somebody is playing football, got stamped, trauma, simple things like that can produce problems. Suppose you are permitted to take family history of this patient, what are the important points that you would like to think?
Any family history of any pulmonary renal syndrome like Goodpasture's Alport's,
Alport syndrome. So what symptom will ask them?
sensory neural hearing loss,
Sensory neural hearing loss. That's good.
vision problems.
Family history of bleeding, family history of other disease of the, we discussed polycystic kidney disease. Okay. Suppose you have to take history of drugs. What drugs comes to your mind?
Any anticoagulants.
That's excellent. Anticoagulants, cyclophosphamide. Okay. So, are there any substances or drugs that can produce this dark colored urine, can mimic
So in rifampicin we can have
orange colored urine? Yes. Then beetroot in large quantities can create problems. So this will come as a important differential diagnosis for us. Okay.
yes,
So we said in between that one of the presentations of acute nephritis can be as rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis. What is it?
yes.
What do you mean by rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis?
Sir, there is gradual onset of hematuria, proteinuria,
Hematuria, proteinuria, and renal failure
and it progresses very quickly.
within 2 weeks. 2 weeks, not months. Within 2 weeks to
Renal failure.
renal failure, and characteristically the histopathology will show some formation of
Crescents.
crescents in them. So common associations of this type of presentations are with the UNGA associated diseases, with SLE, with good pastures. Okay. And how do you treat those patients? It's an emergency. So in those situations you give them a large quantities of hydrocortisone followed by cyclophosphamide and maintain on MMF. Alternatively, the patient is bad, you do plasmapheresis and remove the antibodies. Sometimes you give rituximab. Okay.
Yes.
So the treatment and approach will be different. So what are the investigations you plan in this particular patient?
So we'll do a urine and blood examination.
What all urine examination you want in this patient?
We'll check the RBC.
RBCs are there. Okay, RBCs are there. What do you mean by dysmorphic? You are using the term very frequently. Dysmorphic means
It's not the normal shape of the RBC.
what will difference?
It's
Deformed.
broken down
Deformed. Deformed. It's a tail-like thing. Okay. So that indicates what?
that indicates it's an hematuria.
It indicates it's a glomerular disease. If it's bleeding from your pelvis, ureter, urethra, bladder, prostate and so on, to normal RBCs. When it comes out through the small capillaries, small blood vessels of the glomerulus, it gets deformed in shape. That's so deformity, it is squeezed through, that's correct word, squeezed through the glomerulus, you get the deformed shaped, and that is a clue that you are dealing with a renal problem. So looking under the microscope, light microscopy is an important investigation in this patient. Very good. What else you do next?
Then we'll check for the volume.
Before that, you under the microscope you can see other things like cast. What is a cast?
It is it's formation of the tubular proteins get formed into a cast.
So it is a precipitated protein in the tubule, the shape of a tubule. That's called as a cast. So one cast is hyaline cast. What's the importance of hyaline cast?
Hyaline cast can be seen generally.
Normal people. So hyaline cast is Tom Salt protein, and that does not signify much organic disease in the patient. So what are the pointers towards that you are dealing with organic disease?
And RBC cast.
RBC cast. So what is RBC cast? Over
Which
the
mean
over the hyaline cast, RBC accumulate. So that indicates glomerulonephritis. Suppose it's WBC that's accumulating. What you will
uh,
suspect? That's called as
pyelonephritis.
WBC cast. The recurrent pyelonephritis and rarely in interstitial nephritis. Okay. You will do albumin also, no?
Yes, sir.
You don't expect massive, but just positive, just percent. Okay. What other investigation you want?
So we can take a swab from the infected lesions on the skin.
For culture, but as you told, as we already told, takes 2 to 3 weeks after the infection to bring out this immunological reaction glomerulonephritis. So you need
Yes.
not get organism as such, but you can have indirect evidences of the infection. How?
In the blood, there could be a leukocytosis.
After 3 weeks, leukocytosis need not persist. Or what will you have? The evidence of the streptococcal infection, ASO titer,
I also
and the DNAs. Okay. When we discussed the rheumatic fever, in depth we went to the antibodies in relation to streptococcus. So you can have antibodies against them. And what else you will do?
So we can do urea creatinine
That's a
consumption.
must. You write a must. Anything else? You have to check for the sodium, potassium, and bicarbonate. If it is a RPGN group of condition, rapidly patient may be going for acidosis also. So we will have to check for the basic electrolyte status then. But there are other things we have to do. In the differential diagnosis, we have many conditions coming up. So we have to check whether there is consumption of complements in this case. If there is consumption of complements, that means it's an immunological reaction where immune complexes are formed. So by looking at the complement itself, you will be able to divide them into two groups: immune complex mediated diseases versus post-immune type of diseases. So that's
Yes,
one way to look at it. Complement C3 and C4 were consumed or not. If you don't have clue of the scabies, you have to think about other causes like SLE. You have to do ANA and Smith antibody, anti-DNA antibody. And if you are suspecting vasculitis, you will have to go for ANCA antibodies. And if you are thinking about Good-Pasteur syndrome, you have to go for antibodies against the glomerular basement membrane.
yes, sir.
Okay, how does it produce the problem? This glomerular basement membrane, how does it create problems?
The type 4 collagen of the glomerular basement membrane is affected by
Affected?
antibodies.
Yes, so
So basement membrane is broken down.
so what happens?
Uh, so the proteins can go through the membrane.
Okay, so this immune complex is already formed only in the kidney. It is not circulating. So similar one is happening in the alveolar membrane. There also it is producing damage. Okay, so we have patients who can have all these presentations. All these patients may be going through hypertension and so on. Okay, so coming to other aspects of the patient's problem, what are the treatment problems you have in this patient? What are you going to do for this patient?
Sir, we will prescribe a salt and fluid restriction diet.
Yes, intake output chart must be kept, and daily weight and urine output is very good. It's a must. Okay.
Then we can give diuretics to
Ah.
reduce the edema,
Ah.
antihypertensives to reduce the hypertension,
Preferably which one?
penicillin.
Penicillin for 10 days minimum for antibiotics. Okay. Yes.
We can give antibiotics if there is a continuing infection.
And infection, yes.
Antihypertensives to reduce.
Which antihypertensive? ACE inhibitors or ARBs can be given. Then
So if the patient is going into any renal failure, we can go for a dialysis.
if the renal failure, you are going for dialysis. An acute setup, if the patient is having resistant hyperkalemia, resistant acidosis, okay, patient is going for encephalopathy, flapping tremor, altered sensorium, if the acidosis is very severe and a pericardial rub appears, creatinine is going up, no urinary output, in such scenarios, temporarily you may go for, okay, that requirement of post-infective glomerulonephritis producing that scenario is rare. But if you are having that type of scenario, think about RPGN. RPGN can have this type of fulminant course, otherwise it is not that common. Okay, now coming back to the acute nephritic syndrome, we said immune complex are formed and then consumes the complements. So which are the common conditions that you will suspect when you have low complement?
Post-infectious glomerulonephritis,
Post-infectious glomerulonephritis.
SLE,
SLE is very good. Endocarditis is very good. Hepatitis C producing cryoglobulinemia is very good. You may have infection somewhere where you had done all day shunt. That can produce shunt nephritis. Okay, so there may be many areas where you have got problems. So to memorize it, there's a small mnemonic for students. She saw Sally cook poison mushrooms. She saw Sally cook poison mushrooms. The first letter of each word is a tip for you. She represents SLE. So subacute bacterial endocarditis. Sally, you can have shunt nephritis. Cook, we have cryoglobulinemia and related things like hepatitis C. Poisoned, post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Okay, mushroom, membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis. These are the conditions where basically you have low type of complements. So this type of patients, you have to wait and see. Periodically you check the complement. Within 6 to 8 weeks, complements will return normal if it is post-streptococcal, shunt nephritis, endocarditis and so on. If it is not responding back to normal, then think about some other condition like SLE that's creating problem. So autoimmune diseases, unless you specifically give treatment, it will not come down to normal. Okay.
yes sir.
Okay, so you have got a group of conditions where you have got low complement. So complement becomes important for our investigation purpose. Now we have got post-immune type of diseases where immune complex position is not directly taking place, but the presentation clinically is as acute nephritic illness. So acute nephritic illness is a scenario where you have hematuria, oliguria, edema appearing abruptly. That's called as nephritic illness. So that is the clinical presentation. So clinically people present as nephritic, nephrotic and so on. But coming to pathogenesis, pathology and all, we say immune complex mediated. So this cannot be interchangeably used. In other words, post-immune or immune complex can have different causes. All the causes can present as acute nephritic illness. Okay, so once you see clinically as immune complex, you then subdivide them into different categories and proceed with it. One example of post-immune glomerulonephritis is granulomatous polyangiitis. Granulomatous polyangiitis. Okay, all types of ANCA-associated vasculitis. So you don't find any immune complexes there. There may be T cells which may be directly attacking. There may be anti-glomerular based membrane antibodies like Goodpasture syndrome. There may be other conditions where you find there will be very minimal amount of antibodies and still you get acute nephritic illness. So diagnosis becomes important. The diagnosis is important. Why? Why is diagnosis important?
The treatment.
What is the treatment variation? Treatment variation is, if it's a post-immune, you go for corticosteroids. In post-acute glomerulonephritis, we said you give antibiotics, then you give them antihypertensive, fluid restriction, they recover. Here scenario is slightly different. You suppress them, large dose of corticosteroids are given. It may not be sufficient. You may supplement it with intravenous cyclophosphamide. You may have to do removal of the antibodies by plasmapheresis, or you may have to give rituximab or similar monoclonal antibodies. So
Yes.
basically you divide this group of patients into hypocomplimentic and diminished
Yep.
complement, and then you proceed accordingly. Okay, coming back to the so almost all conditions we have described now. RPGN we said, anti-glomerular basement membrane disease we said, ANCA associated we said, immune complex mediated conditions we said, non-immune mediated conditions also we said. So all of them we have discussed one by one. Okay, now coming to ANCA mediated vasculitis, what's happening?
Uh,
What?
anti-
That's what's happening.
antibiotics
ANCA associated, how does it produce antibodies? Who are the culprit? ANCA activates the neutrophils. Neutrophils gets extravasated. Extravasated neutrophils produce inflammatory reaction. Inflammatory reaction leads on to second line cells will come in, monocytes, macrophages and all, and it produces inflammation, scarring and damage to the tissues without producing an immune complex deposit. So the ANCA antibodies act through a different mechanism, and it can produce necrotizing glomerulonephritis. It can have very bad outcome like RPGN, but then there are no immune complexes to be seen. Majority of RPGN may belong to this group. Another group, important group will be conditions like Goodpasture syndrome. Okay, the treatment is again different. Corticosteroids, rituximab, plasmapheresis and cyclophosphamide, very toxic drugs, are the usual line of treatment for this type of conditions. So ANCA related things can present like acute nephritic illness, wide varieties of infections. In the all condition we said under the category of low complement can the presentation as acute nephritic illness. Okay. Now coming back to the IgA glomerulonephritis, we said where is the problem in IgA nephritis?
there is increased levels of IgA being formed.
It's deposited inside the mesangium. Mesangium. What is mesangium?
Uh, the in the inside the glomerulus.
No, it is not inside glomerulus. It is a space outside, in between. In between the kidney, you find space in between. That's called mesangium. Okay, not food cells. Not food cells. Mesangium is the interstitium of the kidney. Interstitium of the kidney is called mesangium. So, is there any other name for this IgA nephropathy?
Burgess.
Very good, very good, very good. Burgess disease. Is there any other condition by his name, Berger?
The peripheral vascular.
TAO. What is TAO?
Thromboarthritis obliterans.
Angiitis obliterans.
Angiitis.
It is a type of vasculitis, medium vessel vasculitis. It is not a surgical problem basically, it's a medical problem, although they get admitted under surgery because of gangrene. It's a medical problem. Okay, it's commonly seen in smokers. And the IgA nephropathy is another condition seen in smokers commonly, others can also have. And there are two types are there, primary and secondary. Primary where there is no cause is found. The antibody involved is immunoglobulin A. What are the other diseases where immunoglobulin A is commonly involved? IgA involvement, cirrhosis liver is one, HSP another one, very good. Celiac disease another one, and sometimes infections in relation to HIV, CME and all can have. Okay, so who are all susceptible for it? It's all mediated by your HLAs. All of us are not susceptible. Okay, important point is we must remember is always it is synpharyngetic hematuria, that's hallmark, and episodic disease a hallmark. In other words, you get respiratory tract infection today and tomorrow you get the hematuria. Unlike in case of post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, 2 to 3 weeks of period is there. Okay, post-infective disease. So this is a clinical diagnosis, and you commonly post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis do not recur. This is a recurrent disease. No other symptoms may be there. Usually they have only hematuria, microscopic, macroscopic, or acute nephritic illness. Very rarely as nephrotic syndrome, and sometimes they may present as end stage renal disease also. Okay,
Yes.
so RPGN is also a rare presentation in these patients. And how do you treat these patients?
So plasmapheresis.
You give it control their blood pressure with ACE inhibitors, ARBs. Okay, mild cases you leave them alone. Mild cases you leave them alone. You don't do anything for them. They may live long time without a problem. So one third of them will go for remission even without you do anything, and they continue with a minimal amount of complaints. 40% of them will go to end stage renal disease, in whom you are forced to do a transplantation. But it is said that it can recur in the transplanted kidney also, although that is very unusual. That is possible. And 30% will be hanging around with the microscopic hematuria. Whenever they go for routine examination, the laboratory they will come with a report hematuria. Never ignore it, always look for it. In such patients in whom you suspect, always check the glomerular filtration rate, check the proteinuria. One cutoff is 1 gram proteinuria, where we must get involved and treatment is specifically given, and hypertension must be treated. Okay, that's how these patients are usually taken care of. If the proteinuria is more than 1 gram, creatinine is going up, hypertension is very much there, such patients do very badly in the patients. So they are the bad sort of patients, and they may not do very well with the treatment. Okay, so IgA
Yes, sir.
nephropathy is an important topic for us. If the patient comes to say I had hematuria yesterday, today I find urine is clear, and you get similar history in the past also, never think it's only urinary tract infection. Always keep this possibility in mind. Same token, if somebody comes and say I have a chest infection, I have a hemoptysis, don't forget to examine their urine. If you find urinary findings, good posture syndrome is a possibility. So these are the things which we usually take casually. Somebody had hematuria, okay, today the urine is clear, so everything is fine, I don't do anything more. Don't leave it like that. That may be the tip of the iceberg, and it may, one third of the patient they will go very well without anything. 40% only will get into trouble. So those 40% needs to be picked up. So diagnosis of hematuria is important for us. So simple examination of urine under the microscope will tell you it's dysmorphic. If so, it's come from the glomerulus, and if the repeated history, you think about IgA, and that's how you have to work out the cases. Now coming to
Yes, sir.
the good posture syndrome, how do they present usually?
Hemoptysis and urea.
Hemoptysis. Okay, hemoptysis is one presentation, hematuria is another presentation, and some amount of edema, puffiness, oliguria may also be there. Hypertension may be there. What the usual age group for these patients?
Um, it can be seen in adults.
Usually seen in young adults, 30 years, 40 years. In peace, there is some susceptibility for this type of diseases. HLA mediated problem, susceptibility is there. Commonly precipitated by infections, and this also more commonly seen in smokers. Smokers
Yes, sir.
are more likely to get. So also those who are involved in the hydrocarbon like solvents, who use it or who abuse it for snuffing purposes, also may get into trouble. Rarely some monoclonal antibodies like alemtuzumab is also said to be a culprit to precipitate good posture syndrome. So chest X-ray, what will chest X-ray showing in these patients?
Um,
Chest X-ray may be normal. Chest X-ray may show just like alveolar shadows or haziness may be seen. And if you do CT scan, you'll be able to see better. Complements are characteristically normal in this group of patients. Never forget, complement is not used. It's a post-immune type of glomerular problem. And if you have money enough, you can check for anti-glomerular basal membrane antibodies. What's the common treatment?
Sir, glucocorticoids.
Glucocorticoids may not be enough.
Sir,
You had to go for
plasma.
cyclophosphamide, plasmapheresis. Plasmapheresis is cheaper for us, and you go for it, temporarily tide over, then you go for the other treatment modalities. Now coming to acute glomerulonephritis, are there any indications for biopsy of these patients? Usually a post-operative glomerulonephritis, you don't require any biopsy. But coming to acute nephritic illness due to other conditions like SLE, so systemic diseases, you will have to go for a biopsy. So we said we have to check the complements after 6 to 8 weeks. If it does not come back normal, you are suspecting some immune mediated disease, you have to go for a biopsy. Okay,
Yes.
atypical presentations, definitely you have to go for biopsy. A minority of these acute nephritic patients go for nephrotic stage proteinuria, about 3.5 grams. They may also require biopsies. Okay, all patients
Yes.
with a normal complement, you have to go for biopsy. In spite of your best of treatment, creatinine is building up, something is wrong, we have to go for biopsy. You may wait up to 3 months for complements to become normal, not more than that. Compulsorily you have to
Two times.
go for treatment. Okay, persistent renal failure, persistent heavy proteinuria, they are all indications for doing biopsy in this patient. By and large, prognosis is said to be good. Antibody response is massive and permanent, and recurrence of post-operative glomerulonephritis usually do not take place. Usually do not take place in these patients.
Yes.
So the case was selected today for discussion because very rarely we give this type of cases for examination. So nobody concentrate on renal diseases, but it's a common problem in the community. Your questions and doubts?